of Cefalù, which is a few miles from Palermo, um, because he was English, and also they thought he was doing black magic, which did not make Mussolini too happy. And so Mussolini said, get rid of that crazy, evil Englishman. And so he was given his walking papers, and he had painted all the walls of a leased house, which isn't a good idea because he never owned the house. This was like, so wonderful oil paintings of, like his bedroom is called La Chambre de Cauchemar, the room of nightmares, and the whole idea of the paintings was to show what nightmares were like. And for instance, on the edge of his bed, he had all these demons looking over the edge of the bed at what was going on in the bed. So he had a great sense of humor. But Mussolini had kicked him out, and then they had ordered the paintings all covered with whitewash. So I spent, in 1955, a whole summer very carefully scraping off the whitewash and using diluted acid to soften it up and then remove it. But under it were these beautiful oil paintings by Crowley. And so that was a thrilling experience. And while I was doing it, the famous sexologist, Dr. Alfred C. Kinsey, came to visit me because he wanted to see these paintings. So there's a photograph of me with Dr. Kinsey in the house, which Crowley called the Abbey of Thelema, which means the will, which was after Rabelais. He adored Rabelais. So.
I hope everybody's doing okay. This is Slaves of Satan, episode 40. I'm sorry about the bad quality there. Even with an 8K TV, you can't really do much with quality. That's an old video in general on YouTube like that. So if you don't know who that is, which the majority of people don't but should, because he was a very, very evil and influential figure. It was Kenneth Anger, by the way. And while this video is getting back on track, to the events after the Babylon working rituals, because the last video was a little bit of a detour, I felt the need to talk about Giordano Bruno, because no one else really does. But I have a full video about that, so I'm not getting into that right now. But one of while there's several missing disciples of the beast that have not been covered yet, Kenneth Anger is a piece that definitely needs to be mentioned. And in case this is the first time you've been watching this series, it absolutely is the type of series that needs to be watched in order to fully understand and to see what point I'm trying to make. So this Kenneth Anger, man, let's look at what kind of resume he has. He was an occult filmmaker, which is what he's most famous for, other than being a homosexual. A writer, a devout follower of Aleister Crowley. Because see, what Aleister Crowley did to corrupt the morality system was he either dead or alive, either through himself or another disciple, he found ways to recruit people in all different fields, so the Crowley influence could pretty much hit every topic or field of expertise or entertainment possible. And in that video, another name that he threw out very casually, and he spoke it with admiration, was the disgusting, degenerate Alfred Kinsey, who is probably one of the worst people to live in the past 100 years, and he's the reason that pornography was made legal. Before this early 70s, pornography was a crime that you would go to prison for, even if it was a mutual agreement made. There's I have a whole video, I think it's episode 9 or 10, that goes into full detail about him. It's like 40 minutes long, but if you want an even more sophisticated documentary about him, there's a very good documentary that I recommend called The Kinsey Syndrome, and it is extremely disturbing because of how sick this man was, especially with very, very, very young boys and girls. I'm not gonna go into huge detail, but if you're highly like mentally triggered by sexual deviancy, then skip like 30 seconds ahead. I would say the worst thing that he did in his sexology work that was funded by the Rockefellers was he would actually do sex experiments on literal babies, and he would claim that they climaxed during the scene. Well, not a scene, the experiment, boys and girls, and not that I even believe that that they did anyways, but he claimed because they climaxed that there was nothing wrong with it. And while Kenneth Anger and Alfred Kinsey, I believe, both denied it later in life. They were both very big supporters of NAMBLA, and when I tell people what NAMBLA is, they're very stunned that it even exists. And NAMBLA, and it's still active today. You can look it up. NAMBLA stands for North American Man Boy Love Association. It's a evil, apparently non-profit organization, but I'm sure they profit in their own sick ways, to advocate that pedophilia is normal and that basically a 40-year-old man should be able to hook up with a 6-year-old if they want, and there's no issue if the 6-year-old likes it. So anyways, his religion was Thelema. That's obvious because he was a devout follower of Crowley. Born Presbyterian. Now, a lot of people born Presbyterian that I've noticed either grow up switching religions, turning atheist, or going down what they call the left-hand path. Now, I say don't go on the left or the right. I say stay on the straight and narrow like Jesus said. But Presbyterian people don't stick with it, and it's not spiritual. I've known a lot of people that grew up Presbyterian. There's no presence of the Lord in that faith. They don't want it. They deny it. Okay, so he's the main. Well, I won't say the main. The first film that he was infamous for was Fireworks. That was not his biggest hit. But if there's anyone like born in the 80s or later watching this will give you an example of how quick time changed. So after the movie he pretty much only made short films. I don't think he even has a full film. He has a bunch of short movies, like between 15 to 30 minutes, some even shorter. So this Fireworks movie, just because the movie, and this was not a porno, it was a movie. Well, back then I guess it wasn't really separated as much because porn was illegal anyways. But anyways, this 1947 film Fireworks, it had homoerotic scenes, meaning two men doing whatever abominable acts with each other, probably sodomy, knowing this man. And charges was pressed against Kenneth, and he got arrested on those charges. He got out right away, and they got dropped. But this is how serious they took that back then. This was not something that anyone living in the 50s would have thought. There would have been these disgusting pride parades going on. And like I said, one of the biggest red flags is to be friends with Alfred Kinsey. Kinsey liked men as well, so I'm sure they had a working relationship and a sexual relationship as well. I'm not accusing, well, I'm not accusing as a fact, but I would say it's highly suspicious, and probably so. So one of his more famous films, 1954, Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome, which was mostly famous, in my opinion, because it stars Marjorie Cameron, who I have a very, very extensive video about. I think it might be like 35, like between 34 and 36, I would guess. And Marjorie Cameron was believed to be the incarnation of the goddess Babylon in the Thelemic religion, not the way Babylon is spelled in the Bible, like not Babylon, but Babalon. And then one of his other major ones was 1964 Scorpio Rising, and there's no reason to watch these movies. They're very disgusting, very, very charged, very evil. Please do not watch these, please. Then in 1965, he released Custo Car Commandos. And I noticed a few things about that movie. 3 things actually, and I did not get this off of any research that others did. I actually just looked at it and it clicked in my own head. So you got 3 words in the movie, 3 Ks. So KKK, but I definitely don't believe it's race. I believe there's two esoteric meanings. Because a lot of times these people have one exoteric meaning to throw to the masses. Then there's two esoteric meanings, like one that is easy to spot out, and then one that someone really needs to know what they're looking at. And also, a good example of this is the ancient Egyptians. Like they would tell the workers or the slaves, or even the common folk in ancient Egypt, they would tell them the sun was God. But then they would tell the people um um that lived in the same building as the pharaohs and around the priests, the magicians, the royalty, they would say the esoteric hidden meaning was the energy from the sun was God. But then a very, very few elite people had the deeper esoteric belief that the god that was actually the dog star Sirius is what they believed. Or for another example of something that has layer after layer after layer of meaning is the square and compass with the G, and specifically the G. It has I think like an 8-layer meaning or maybe more. Or the dollar bill, that eye on the dollar bill has a 7-layer meaning. So first we're gonna look at some gematria. There's so many different types, but with this is pretty obvious. So KKK equal using the gematria based off the English alphabet, that equals 33, which in the occult is one of the most infamous numbers. I'm not going to explain what all it means right now. And then on a level a little bit deeper, you see that because he was such a Crowley obsessed freak, for anyone that knows anything about Crowley's work, he always had a K at the end of his magic to differentiate it from stage magic. So, and that's the 11th letter in that alphabet. So 11, 22, 33. So I also believe that it was just a way to honor his disgusting leader. I don't know what else to really say. And oh yeah, and I also I believe that film, unless it was another one. Oh wait, no, it was another one. 1 second. So in 1964, he released Invocation of My Demon Brother. This is one of his more successful ones. And it features Anton LaVey in it. He plays the devil, I believe. And something else that needs to be called to attention here. Well, two things. First of all, is Bobby Beausoleil was in the cast and involved with the music, and Bobby Beausoleil ended up being wrapped up in the Manson family murders, as he was one of the murderers of the family, and he's still rotting in jail to this day. Very evil man. And the movie was exactly 11 minutes long, and I believe that was probably done intentionally too. So then his most famous film, 1972, Lucifer Rising, which Bobby Beausoleil did the music to that too. And what makes it even worse this time is this was after Kenneth learned that Bobby Beausoleil was involved with the Manson family murders. And I'm not making this about Anton LaVey because he needs his own very long video in itself. But Anton LaVey was also briefly involved. Well, I won't say briefly. He was involved with the Manson family murders, but he was not as far as anyone knows, he was not directly at the scene of it. But why, if someone asked, did he not get arrested for that or questioned? Because something that a lot of people don't know is that Anton LaVey had above top secret clearance at the Pentagon, and that's I believe that was his position. Whatever it was above presidency level, and that's because he was the one that was training these remote viewers. Because to remote view, which if someone does not know what that is, like say if I'm down here right now and I want to go see what's going on 3 miles down the road inside a fast food joint where someone I know used to work, I would go into a trance-like state, astral project, and then view what's happening over there. Now, supposedly nowadays they can do it without astral projecting, so I've heard. But Anton LaVey was a world-class astral projector. Usually people can't stay out of the body for more than 5 minutes, but he could do it for over 30 sometimes. And if you get advanced enough at that remote viewing, you can even go view things like a conversation in Russia that happened 30 years ago. It's like people that I've told about this that aren't really a spiritual being, it just goes in one ear and out the other, because they're just thinking rationally, like, how could this be true? But they just have no understanding of how spiritual the world actually is. And once you start looking for it, it's not really very hard to figure it out. But anyways, there's more about Anton here in a little bit. Now, Jimmy Page was originally going to do the music because he was friends with Bobby Beausoleil on that Lucifer Rising movie, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, this Curtis Harrington guy introduced Kenneth Anger to Aleister Crowley and Thelema. Now, apparently, he did not meet Crowley, but they only spoke in letters, like him and but back then we have to take into account that people did not post their business all over the internet. Nobody put their location on and got on apps showing the world where they was, and people were smarter back then, so they didn't constantly talk. But it's not completely out of the ballpark that he met him in person. It wouldn't surprise me. Because he was able, because I don't really believe that he just happened to be the one to clean up those paintings that he was talking about at the beginning and all that. I think that might have been a little bit more to it. Now, his interest in the occult, specifically the dark arts, interest began after reading L. Frank Baum's Oz books. And this was in high school, by the way. Now, what a lot of people really don't seem to know is that Oz is Crowley related to begin with. And yes, you can argue that the book came out before the era of Crowley, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. But the movie came out after. Now, for people that know a lot about Crowley, which unfortunately I know more than probably a lot of the members of his groups, because I've been called to expose and study things like this. Crowley was not somebody that would have looked at a movie and said, "This is cool. I'm gonna write a whole chapter in my book about this." So, which is in I'll pull up what number Liber it is, but it's in his book The Equinox. That one. The Equinox of the Gods. That's the full name. And I'll pull it right up. So I believe, well, I know, L. Frank Baum's was a theosophist, which all these people go back to Blavatsky. Almost everyone that I've gone back through and will go through was either a follower through just reading the books, or an in-person follower of usually one of those two or both. Now, there's proof that L. Frank Baum was in the Theosophical Society, but I've heard rumors that he was a member also of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and he's still someone on my list. Is as you would know, I have a never ending list of people that will get it next. It's just trying to prioritize who needs it the most. And he also took interest in Rosicrucian philosophies. He was inspired highly by Eliphas Levi, who, interestingly, Crowley believed that he was the reincarnation of. Now, as a Christian, obviously I don't believe in like this traditional reincarnation, but when somebody trades in their mankind to some would say cross the abyss, I normally just say become a Gilberine, which is like the Rephaim, which has to do with the dead, specifically the giants in the Bible. But once you trade in the mankind that you was born with, there is possible ways to avoid that silver cord being severing because of old age and not going back to get your punishment right away, but eventually they will get that punishment. And I'm not agreeing that Eliphas Levi incarnated in Crowley, but I'm not saying that he didn't either. But just go look at picture after picture of these celebrities that look exactly like people from the past. Like, I would say one of the best breakdowns I've seen is a girl that runs a channel called a YouTube channel, but she also has BitChute, Rumble, her own website. But her YouTube is extreme with an X at the beginning, then reality sec, extreme reality sec. Go under playlists and go to A's of Deceit, and like the first 2 or 3 videos covers how so many people have got sex changes in Hollywood without anybody knowing, and it also goes over how these people have been living for thousands, hundreds of years, depending on who you are. Some people hundreds, some people thousands. Okay, but anyways. Now, he was also inspired by, which I've been seeing this name pop up a lot in my research, by Sir James Frazer, but specifically his Golden Bow book. Now, like I said, he was arrested. He was arrested for the homosexual entrapment. Now, soon after this, he changed his name because originally he was born Kenneth Engelmeyer, or Angelmeyer, I'm not sure how it was supposed to be pronounced. Then he changed it to Kenneth Anger. Now, I can't comprehend why, but I'm 100% sure that what you are named, and I don't mean what you change it to later in your life, what your parents names you does have a big effect on your personality. I'm not saying at all that just because someone is named after like a positive person in the Bible that they are going to carry all those traits, or that they are guaranteed to carry the traits of the names that have been assigned to them by their parents. But from my own personal research, usually from what I see, when I'll meet someone and get to know them and look up what their name means, their personality will be really close to those names. It's really wild. And numbers too. Um, while the mind that we are limited to on this earth can't comprehend how numbers and letters and names can have such an effect on us, it really does. Or a lot of evil people throughout the years have had very like bad numbers that ring up in gematria, and people that have been known for very good things have had good numbers in gematria. So I would imagine that once he changed his name to Anger, he probably got even worse. Then after that, he started experimenting with cannabis and peyote. And people nowadays, the marijuana is so normalized that they feel like they feel like it's no different than like drinking a coffee in the morning or something, or drinking a soda or an energy drink. Regardless of what people says, one, marijuana fries your brain. If you want to be a smart, intelligent individual that God made you to be, quit putting that poison in your body. And I also disagree that it's a gateway drug. In my opinion, you're kind of on the midpoint to drugs already if you're smoking marijuana. While it may not have, while it doesn't like take people out, it's horrible for the brain. A lot of people don't ever recover. Now, I do believe in neuroplasticity, which nowadays is called pseudoscience, that people used to believe it, which is not only can you recover your brain cells, you can even gain back new ones, but through perseverance, through hard work, through endurance, and a better lifestyle, but certainly not through cannabis. And marijuana tricks your mind because when you're on it, you think you're smart, but then everyone around you knows that you're dumb, and you do not get um any smarter when you're on it, and if you do, you end up dumber when it wears off. And like I have a friend that quit smoking and quit using marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and he has his mental capabilities have increased drastically. Drastic improvement. And also, whether people want to admit it or not, when in the Bible, in Revelation, when it talks about sorcery, I believe it's in chapter 19, sorcery means pharmakeia, which back then it meant like psychotropic drugs, like so now I mean like acid, peyote, ayahuasca, LSD, DMT, any of that stuff. Ecstasy, mushrooms, and also the first time in the Bible when the word witch is mentioned, it basically meant a basically someone that was distributing poisons, not necessarily physical but mental poison. And people will make every excuse in the world why it's okay. And I'm personally predicting an epidemic of early Alzheimer's and early Alzheimer's, dementia, higher levels of schizophrenia in people at a young age, just anything new, any type of neurological cognitive illnesses that has to do with memory. And Crowley has a book that's all about marijuana, and his first secretary, Israel Regardie, who is a very high-level ceremonial black magician, has a book out about marijuana, and just because they call it hash or hashish, and that it was a lot stronger, it's still the same thing. Alright, so then after gone to after he got in trouble, after he got into the drugs, he moved to Paris in the 50s, after he was blackballed in Hollywood. So see how much society has changed? You was blackballed in Hollywood for making movies with gay scenes. That's how much things have changed in less than 80 years. He also tried writing like an occult Hollywood magazine called Hollywood Babylon in 1965. Now, in 1955, him and Alfred Kinsey visited the Abbey of Thelema to film a short documentary. Now, that's that, I'll put pictures up, it's that disgusting abbey which is like a place of worship where people live a lot of times. Crowley bought it for him and his followers, but what happened was he took, I guess what you would call a new initiate there. he branded 666 on him and put him under hallucinogenic drugs. Then the details aren't super clean about how it happened, but somehow ritualistically, the guy drank cat piss and he died. And after that, Crowley had to go to court. Now, since he was working for all these different three-letter agencies, such as MI6, they weren't gonna arrest him, and they were scared of him, so they were scared to arrest him, so they banned him from his own country. It might have been MI5, by the way. I'll double check before I post it. And the judge said that when the judge looked at his case, he said that in his whole career of being in the courtroom, he never saw anything as bad as a case of him as a person and the crime. And this is just the stuff that the judge knew about. Imagine what the judge did not know about. Now, this is interesting, and I don't really hear people talk about this. So, for a while, Kenneth Anger lived with Anton LaVey, and Kenneth Anger was actually the godfather of Zena LaVey. Now, there's a lot of controversy and opinion surrounding Zena. A lot of people in the Christian, what you would call occult, esoteric, or conspiratorial crowd believes that Taylor Swift is a clone of Xena, which I completely believe there's something far bigger going on with not only Taylor but a lot of those people in the music scene. But there's pretty much three options, and like people will say that there's been billions or trillions of people born. Of course, that every once in a while someone's gonna look like someone. But here's the thing: if that was really the case, why is it only famous people? Because you never see some average person working at McDonald's that looks identical to someone famous from the past. Like, yeah, every once in a while you have someone that looks a little bit like some celebrity, but it's never like almost indistinguishable. Like Taylor looks nothing like her mom, but she looks everything like Xena. Um so I'll tell you what I believed happened. So Xena was a singer in a band that her ex, who was a very, very evil man named Nicholas Shrek, was, I believe it was his band, but he was married to Xena for a long time, called Radio Werewolf. It was very evil, satanic type of music, and at that time, during the Satanic Panic, it obviously was not hitting with any mass audience, and the execs knew that it was not going to fly, but they realized because of who she is that and please no one get influenced by this, but if you'll work for Satan, you will have unbelievable talent, or maybe the talent's already there and he puts it into you. But I personally believe through recombinant DNA that the DNA from Xena was put into somebody through like CRISPR type of methods after they was already born but a young child, to where by the time they reached a certain age they would start to take on the appearance like because cloning don't work like people think. It's not just go into a building, zap, that you come out, you're the same person. Like let's just say if Xena was 30 and Taylor was 10, so that would mean when Xena turned 50, Taylor would look like how Xena did when she was 30. And Xena also left the Church of Satan. Then she became the high priestess and leader of the Temple of Set. Then quit after about a month. Then she became, I think, like a Tibetan Buddhist or something Buddhist. Now, anyways, back to Kenneth Anger. I know I get sidetracked a lot during these, but in a way it's good because it educates you on other people. Now, after he became the godfather of Xena, Kenneth Anger tattooed Lucifer on his chest, and he began looking for a physical incarnation of Lucifer, and he believed it was this Bobby Beausoleil guy, which he obviously wasn't right about, because unless he's gonna all of a sudden de-age 40 years and fly and break those walls and fly out of that prison, and then he's obviously picked the wrong person. Now, this is also something to important to mention. Like I was saying, he was not only friends with Jimmy Page, but the whole Rolling Stones. And just so you know, the Rolling Stones is to like make a mockery out of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And you don't need you don't really need like much experience in dealing with Sard's material if you're a Christian to realize that they were certainly getting their music from the devil. Like you don't even need to listen to that song Sympathy for the Devil. Just go read the lyrics and it's obvious that the song was completely charged from the spirit realm. Like those young hippie boys wouldn't have been able to come up with complex lyrics like that. It's a very evil song, but it's too advanced for them. Same with all these rock bands. If they have these real advanced songs, it comes from the devil. Now, I don't think he was friends with the whole Led Zeppelin band like he was with the Rolling Stones. I believe it was just Jimmy Page with Led Zeppelin. Oh, but back to Rolling Stones. Also, they still got that magazine going, and a lot of people will associate that tongue on the magazine covers, and I believe it's the whole band's logo, or it became their logo at one point. And there's a reason for everything. Everything that these people do when they're involved with the Luciferian hierarchy, they take every sense they can to honor Lucifer. It's disgusting. I'll find it. There it is. Isaiah 57:4. Whom do you ridicule? Against whom do you make a wide mouth and stick out the tongue? Are you not children of transgression, offspring of falsehood? Now, I'm not saying if you accidentally stick out your tongue, you're doing something wrong, because you're not. It's the intention behind it. But in the occult societies, they call it the all-mocking tongue. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. So when Kenneth Anger was friends with Jimmy Page, this was during the time when Jimmy Page bought Aleister Crowley's Boscawen house. And he did go there at least once with Jimmy, because Jimmy Page was so obsessed that he was buying extremely expensive memorabilia of his, just any original copy of a handwritten book that he could get his hands on. Because in my opinion, people literally worship him. It's not as in the open anymore, but they do. And it's also worth noting that even Jimmy Page could not spend more than one night at that house, and could never go there again because it was so horrifying. I believe he described some like headless looking demon walking around the place or something. And also, after Jimmy got rid of it, I believe it burnt down with the new owners. I believe it killed them. Then someone else moved in later, burned down again, and I believe it killed them too, but I would double check. But I know the fires happened, absolutely. But now here's the bad news. For the past about like year and a quarter, they've been restoring the house, and they're making it a tourist attraction, and it's set to open next month. And if anyone happens to watch this and be thinking of going there, I beg of you, I plead with you, do not go there. Oh my Lord. People are gonna be bringing back so many demons with them. Now, now Jimmy was supposed to be on the soundtrack for Lucifer Rising. He got replaced with Bobby Beausoleil. Now, Kenneth Anger has a quote about who Lucifer must be played by, and it's so bad I didn't even want to write it down or speak it out of my own mouth, so I'll just put it up there, so you can see it, like what level of scum this guy was. He was also an OTO member. I could not find what rank he was. Not that it really matters. And also something that I've made clear, almost everybody but a few out of these 40 people have been a Freemason. And the OTO was originally an offshoot of Masonry that was meant to be a direct revival of the Bavarian Illuminati, but then Crowley stripped it of its Masonic roots and made it into a sex cult. So Kenneth Anger was also in a Masonic affiliated body. He also lived with Marjorie Cameron, who I reminded who she was earlier. And he also was friends with George Van Tassel, who I'll be talking about. I think either. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next on the list? No, not next one. The one after that. And George Van Tassel is famous for being the first person to openly come out and talk about being in contact with the Ashtar Command, and he's also famous for building that Integratron, but I have the whole story about that. Now also, Kenneth Anger had made the prototype to the disgraceful LGBT flag, which it's obvious is not a coincidence, because first LGBT is satanic. The whole movement is absolutely demonic to its core. And the person who made the prototype was a deranged homosexual. And it's also to do with Lucifer. So look at just observe the Lucifer Rising logo for, I would say 45 seconds or so, and you'll see. At first it won't really look like much of nothing, but when you really look at it, you'll realize that it's like a banner. And a banner is in the same family as a flag, just with different shape and smaller in scale. Now, that's all I have about Kenneth Anger, but let's review what God feels about this deranged homosexuality one more time. And I also want to say I'm not just singling out the male homosexuals. There's just more of them in this horrible web of Satanism to typically talk about. And I'm not only speaking in a righteous anger of homosexuality either. It's any sexual immorality. It's polygamy, open marriages, sodomy, any form of oral sex. Obviously, um any disgusting thing to do with like anal foreplay, sex toys, masturbation, pornography, all that I'm highly against as well. But the reason the gay and lesbian thing is so bad is because it goes against nature. Well, let's see. All right, here it is. Leviticus 18:22. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. An abomination is much worse than just a regular sin. I hope you found this educational. Sorry I rambled on for a little bit, but I like to try to educate with as many topics as I can, so I can get as much information out as at once. I hope you all have a good rest of the night. The Lord Yahweh bless you.